Hello Yates County and beyond. Welcome back to another episode of Invasive Species Friday. Through this short weekly podcast, we at the Yates CCE hope to bring you information about the invasive species you may see around this county. We're in the grass and the air with this week's invasive, craneflies. First detected in New York State in 2004, the European and common, or marsh craneflies, are both native to Europe and North Africa. The European cranefly was first found in North America in Nova Scotia in 1955. The common cranefly reached North America in 1998 up in British Columbia. Both are now found through much of the United States and Canada. At first glance, they look very similar, making differentiating them from each other and from native varieties a challenge. Despite looking like giant mosquitoes, they can't bite, and the adults are short-lived and don't seem to feed on anything. The adults are about an inch long and spend their few days of mature life mating and laying eggs. European craneflies only complete one generation a year, emerging as adults in late July to September. The females emerge, mate, and lay their eggs all within the first day. All of their eggs are laid in one batch because gravid or pregnant females are unable to fly. The common species completes 2 generations, emerging at the same time as the European, but also in the early spring. They survive 3 to 4 days and can lay multiple batches of eggs because the pregnant females are more capable flyers. Both invasives lay 200 to 300 black eggs at the soil surface. The eggs are each about 1 millimeter wide and require wet conditions to survive hatching. The larvae go through 4 instar stages before they pupate, which is the final stage before adulthood. As larvae, they typically live and feed in the top inch of soil. They're given the nickname leather jackets for their dark gray to brown, rough exterior. By mid-July, the European cranefly larvae that overwintered have reached their maximum size of 1 inch to 1.5 inches and move down in the soil an inch or 2. There, they stop feeding and develop into a pupa. This stage is where they transform from chunky, squishy larvae into thin, winged adult. Not quite the same glow-up as a butterfly, but it's the same principle. The common cranefly goes through a similar stage transition, but a bit faster, allowing them a second generation each year. At the end of pupation, the pupa wiggles its way back up to the surface of the soil where the adult emerges. The empty pupal casing left behind resembles a small twig sticking out of low-mowed turf. For both species, the larval stages are where the insects get their invasive title. During these stages, they feed on the root hairs, roots, and crowns of grass. As the stages progress, they feed more voraciously. In particular, the 4th instar of the European cranefly, which grows rapidly in the spring, can cause scalping damage and other injury to golf courses and home lawns. The common cranefly can cause similar damage, but as they have 2 generations a year, it's harder to pin down the timing of their damage. In either case, the maggots feeding on both the roots and the leaf blades results in yellowing and bare patches. Though this can be annoying at home, these invasives are a threat to any grass species, including agricultural crops like oats, rye, and wheat. They even go after seedling nurseries and flowers in some cases. Apart from direct damage to the plants, the leather jackets are an attractive food source for birds, raccoons, and skunks who dig up the earth in search of the larvae. As I previously mentioned, differentiating European, common, and native craneflies is tricky. The adults have very similar body shapes with thin, fragile wings and 6 legs. If you get a look at the wings of the cranefly, that will help the most. Both invasive species have a dark band on the upper edge of the wing next to a light-colored band. Otherwise, their wings are clear. Native craneflies have pigmentation or patterns on the veins, cross veins, and rest of the wing. They also don't cause the damage that the non-natives do, and in fact are a valuable cleanup crew for breaking down organic matter. To differentiate the invasive species from each other, you'll need to count the segments on the antenna, measure the relative length of the wing to the abdomen, or the space between the cranefly's eyes. In short, send it to a specialist if you really want to know which invasive you found. When trying to manage cranefly infestations, it's important to keep your grass healthy. Healthy grass can survive a certain amount of damage before showing signs of distress. Adequate fertilizer applications and proper irrigation and soil drainage will help. Excess thatch, that matted layer of dead material in the lawn, is the perfect habitat for cranefly larvae, so removing that may help. It's also important to grow the right kind of grass. Growing full sun grass in shade means the grass won't grow as well. It'll be easier for the leather jackets to cause wider damage. Your local extension office may be able to give you tips for growing grass. There are several biological controls like birds, nematodes, fungi, and mammals that will help with managing the infestation as well. If the infestation starts to get out of hand, there are also chemical controls, but the timing of the insecticide application is important and it's based on the life cycle of each insect. As you may have guessed, the long-range expansion of the invasives is caused by humans. The adults either can't fly or can't fly far, and the larvae can't get very far on their own. The introduction and spread of these insects comes from the movement of infested soil. Keep an eye out for infestation indicators if you plan to give away transplants. If you're bringing in sod or soil, get it from reputable sources and monitor the site after. Remember, the entire life cycle occurs in the top couple inches of soil, so sod movement is a major source of spread. There aren't as many established or legal safeguards for craneflies as there are for other invasives. Hopefully with more awareness, this might change in the future. And with that, we reach the end of this week's episode of Invasive Species Friday. Next week, we'll be looking at a flowering pea plant relative. Until then, we at the Yates CCE thank you for tuning in and supporting our fight against invasive species in Yates County.